So boom, imagine it's the 1500s. You're high up in the Andes Mountains. The air is so thin that every breath feels like a sharp pain. Kind of like your lungs are fighting for survival. A group of indigenous miners are deep inside the Silver Mountains of Potosí? 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 I'm gonna just... They deep in here. And that mountain was also known as the mountain that eats men. Seriously, that's what it was known as. The walls drip with sweat and dust, and the shifts are endless. Working from sunup to sundown, from sundown to sunup. They're just around in a circle. But nobody's collapsing. Nobody's falling out. Ain't nobody tired. So they're all chewing on these small green leaves. And these aren't just any leaves. They're coca leaves. A plant that thousands of years before Europeans showed up was a sacred life form in Andean culture. It was sacred, spiritual, and medicinal. And now, about to become a tool for a whole empire. What's up, potties? It's the dopest soul you'll ever meet. And welcome back to High History, where we talk about real people getting real high back in the day. Today, we're diving into one of the wildest, craziest crossovers in history. How coca, the ancestor to cocaine, went from being a sacred plant to being weaponized by Spanish colonizers to get labor out of indigenous and enslaved people. Yeah, it's crazy and wild. Pretty dark. Pretty fucking dark. So today's story isn't about the luxury lines of that booger sugar. It's about survival, empire, and the way a little green plant fueled centuries of exploitation.
I'm the type of nigga that gets sassy on the bitch. VVS, clarity, stone, Prezi on the bitch. And I'm feeling like the hand of God bless me in this bitch. Put respect up on my name, ho, I'm heavy in this bitch. I just want 7 grams.
So long before colonizers even thought about the new world, coca had deep roots in the Andes. Archaeologists have found traces of coca chewing dating back to at least 3,000 years, with evidence of coca use in mummies from as far back as 1000 BCE. So when I said this plant was a part of their life, I'm talking about ancient history deep. For the indigenous people of the Andes and countless others, coca was more than just a stimulant. It was like a sacred connector. So picture this: every harvest, every festival, every offering to the mountain gods, coca was there. They believed coca carried the power of Pachamama, which was Mother Earth herself. People chewed the leaves in a practice called aculico, stuffing a wad in your cheek and mixing it with like a little ash or lime, and that was supposed to activate the stimulant. And the result? Your hunger was erased, fatigue lifted, altitude sickness calmed, and you just had a sharp mind. It wasn't about getting high in the recreational sense. It was about balance, endurance, and just connection. And coca even had its own social etiquette. So offering somebody coca was like offering them trust, friendship, respect. Refusing coca was like an insult. Like you damn near get punched in your face if you said you didn't want to chew no coca. Like you don't want no cocaine. That's crazy. Like that's an insult. And because of its sacred status, coca was often used in rituals to communicate with the spirits of the mountain gods. Shamans would even chew coca before divining in futures or making big community decisions. The key point: before colonization, coca wasn't used for exploitation. And the Spanish, at first, they didn't understand it. So picture this. So they stepping off the boat, armor all shiny, swords out, probably got the crosses in their hand, and they just looking at the indigenous people chewing on these little green leaves like, what the hell is this? Witchcraft or something? So to the Spanish, coca chewing looked like some strange habit. And even worse, Catholic priests saw it as pagan magic. The church labeled coca a tool of the devil, and they tied it to indigenous religious practices that endangered Christianity. In fact, some early colonial laws tried to ban coca outright. But here's the twist. Those laws or those bans didn't last long. Why, you may ask? Because the Spanish realized that without coca, the colonial economy will collapse. See, the Spanish weren't just hanging out in the Andes for the views. They came for silver, specifically from the mountain of Potosí. I don't know if I'm probably not saying that right, y'all, but that's Potosí. That's what I'm gonna call it. So that is one of the richest silver mines in world history. Silver from that mountain bankrolls Spain's empire. It funded wars for Europe and basically just turned Spain into a global powerhouse. But there was a problem. The work to get that silver out of the mountain was hell. So inside the mountain's tunnels, temperatures went from freezing cold to hot as hell. The air was thin at nearly 15,000 feet of elevation, and shifts lasted 12, 14, and sometimes even 16 hours. And the labor, it was brutal, okay? It was pretty fucked up. Hauling heavy loads, hammering into rocks, and inhaling toxic dust. Without coca, indigenous people simply collapsed. They starved, fainted, or died quickly from exhaustion. But with coca, they could suppress the hunger, keep moving, and endure way longer. And the Spanish noticed. They realized coca wasn't a superstition. It was a way to keep the labor machine running. So instead of banning coca, they did what colonizers always do. They flip it into something that would benefit them. By the mid-1500s, colonial officials began distributing coca to indigenous people on the mines and on plantations. What was once a sacred ritual now became a survival mechanism. One that's now controlled by the Spanish. And it didn't take long for them to turn coca into a business. The Spanish crown set up a colonial monopoly on coca, taxing it heavily and controlling who can sell it. And indigenous workers were forced to buy it from Spanish-approved dealers. And in some mining camps, get this shit, hold on. Coca was literally a part of the workers' wages. So no food, no money. They literally just paying you in the same drug that's helping you survive to keep working. And if you think that's cold, get a load of this. The Spanish didn't even chew coca themselves. They still saw it as dirty, as indigenous. But they had no problem of using it as a tool of empire, feeding it to workers so they can just keep extracting silver and gold. Think about the irony. What was once sacred became a tool for slavery, and what was once banned as devil's work became the engine of empire. Coca was the fuel that kept the mining labor force alive and productive. Without it, the system would have collapsed. No coca, no silver. No silver, no Spanish empire. Well, not the way we know it. Coca was never just a plant. For the indigenous people of Andes, it was a bridge to the divine, a healer, a daily companion. For Spanish colonizers, it became a tax base, a stimulant, and a leash on enslaved people. It's a story of survival and exploitation, faith and hypocrisy, culture and empire, all wrapped up in a handful of green leaves. And it shows us something bigger. Every empire builds itself on the backs of the exploited. It's the smallest, most overlooked thing, like a leaf, that holds a whole system together. And that brings us to the end of this episode. If you rock with this one, make sure you drop that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that post notification bell. Because next time on High History, we're diving into the cannabis usage in the Harlem Renaissance. I was waiting to do this one. This one I'm excited about. Oh yeah, I'm excited. Since I could talk to y'all now. The episode over with. My bad about my camera quality. Like, my camera was lagging really bad. I don't know what the hell happened to you. So I'm actually recording on my laptop camera right now, and I really didn't know if I wanted to do this or not, because I want to be like quality over quantity, and I just don't want to be dropping shit just because I don't know, but I wanted to get it done. I don't want to just have no excuses neither. So I got it done. Sorry about the quality. Yeah, I got it done. Shit, damn it. But yeah, cannabis in the Harlem Renaissance. Make sure you smoke the gas, cause I'm about to go. I'm ready to lay down, y'all. I'm tired. Get this video edited and shit. But make sure you smoke the gas. And pass the gas. Dope soul out.